Shut up. Okay. What's up? Shut up. Okay. What's up? Shut up.
What's up, guys? You're listening to the MFCEO Project. I'm Andy. I'm your host, and I am, well, you know the rest. Hey, I'm here with my co-host, Vaughn Kohler, Vaughn the Impaler, Vaughn Diesel, Vaughn Jovi.
Starting defense.
Place at the table.
Yes.
I taught Vaughn a new quote from one of my favorite movies.
I'm going to go watch the movie. I haven't seen it yet.
The Program. He
didn't
even know. He had to Google it.
Yeah. Well, I posted on Facebook. I asked everybody what one of their favorite scenes of all time was, and Andy just all caps wrote, starting defense, place at the table. So I had to look it up on YouTube.
And everybody knew what it meant except you.
Yeah, pretty much.
What's that tell you?
Yes, that I'm behind on 90s movies about football.
That's right.
Yeah.
One of the greatest sports movies ever.
Yeah.
That's terrible.
But in an awesome way,
that's
as
right.
you said.
It is. It's like one of those movies that it's on and you watch it, and then you're done. And you're like, why did I watch that?
That reminds me of the conversation we had like a couple years ago where you said you had watched Pacific Rim like 12 times.
Dude,
and I said, was it good?
Dude, Pacific Rim still comes on, and I still fucking watch it. I can't help it.
Resident Evil,
all of them. Do you do the same one with that?
Yeah.
I can't help it.
Nope.
What is it about those movies that...
Your phrase was great, though. Terrible, but in an awesome way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody knows what that means when it comes to movies. Like, there's certain movies that are just terrible, and you watch them anyway.
Yeah.
Resident Evil, all of them fall into that category.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is about those movies. I can't even explain it. Emily tries to, like, understand what it is. I can't explain it to her.
Yeah. For me, and I'm going to get a bunch of abuse for this, but for me, that's Karate Kid 3. It's a terrible movie, but I really enjoy watching it.
Yeah,
I'm older.
I never got into Karate Kids.
Yeah.
They were like
They were before your time.
Just before my time.
Yeah.
Like right before my time.
Yeah. And then they ruined it and had like another Karate Kid where it was a girl. That was just.
What do you hate girls?
No, but
what are you discriminating?
A little bit.
Are you racist?
Yeah. Well, it's Hillary Swank.
Racist Vaughn.
I just can't.
I hate girls, and I am a girl.
That's sexist, Kelsey.
Yeah.
We better write a letter or throw a protest.
Yeah. It's true.
Anyway, guys, here's the deal. We're going to talk about some practical tools, some nuts and bolts. A lot of you guys have asked me what tools I use on a daily basis to get the most out of life, how to stay productive, and it's a great question, and I'm happy to answer it because at the end of the day, success in entrepreneurship and moving forward comes down to practicality. People like to throw around words like vision and motivation and efficiency, and a lot of these abstract concepts that these guys use fly straight over people's heads, including mine. Some of these dudes, that I know personally, I have to stop them and ask them, like, what the fuck are you talking about? You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
They're using terms that, I'm a regular dude, man.
Yeah.
I'm not extremely intelligent. I'm just a normal dude who knows how to fucking get shit done. And this is what I want to teach you guys today. For all of us listening that aren't fucking geniuses, we'll just use the hammer and nails and our fucking tool belt to get shit done. We don't have to talk about these abstract concepts, talk about how smart we are.
Yeah.
Okay. We're going to get down to the nuts and bolts. How can you get shit done? And that's what I want to talk to you guys about today.
And guys, we talked a little bit before the recording how we're going to structure this, and we decided that what I think we're going to do is we're going to take a common topic of success, some key buzzword that people use all the time. We're going to throw that out there, and I'm going to kind of pick a goal or two under each one of those topics, and then Andy's just going to break down his strategies and share his tools. Cool?
Yeah, man.
All right. I think a lot of these will probably overlap a little bit, but it makes sense to me because it's so fundamental. You're going to say something?
Yeah, it's just, it's a little bit frustrating to me, the approach that some of, I guess I would say my peers in this entrepreneur motivation space take, because I feel like a lot of them could become way more helpful if they were more willing to not try and sound like they know everything. Mm-hmm. Do you get what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like, when you use big words and big phrases and these concepts and all these, fucking terms, that shit is hard for people to follow. Mm-hmm. Our goal, like when I say our goal, like I'm talking about myself and my peers in this space of entrepreneurship, motivation, self-help, if you will,
right?
Personal development. Our responsibility is to be effective. It's not about us sounding smart or us, trying to pretend like we're smarter than this or we know these big fucking things. You know, like half the shit these motherfuckers say, I don't even know what the fuck they mean.
Right.
If I don't know what they mean, I know that most of these motherfuckers don't know what it means.
Right.
You know, because I'm in this. So the purpose of today's podcast is to sort of take some of these concepts that might be confusing and break them down into like practical how-to, situations that you can implement, or how-to tools, so to speak, how that you can implement into your daily routine to help you move forward.
Absolutely. I was just thinking as you were talking about sometime in the mid 90s, I was at the movie theater and this teenage kid came out of seeing The Matrix.
Yeah.
And he's like, dude, you got to see that movie. And I said, why? And he goes, it's the most incredible movie. It just blows your mind. I go, what's it about? And he goes, I have no idea.
Right.
And that's kind of like
Yes.
what a lot of people, they come away from different speakers and they're like, man, that guy was awesome. Okay, so what did you learn? I don't know.
And that's the problem, right? Like that's the issue, okay?
Yeah.
There's a lot of people out there that can deliver in such a way, and I'm one of them. I will flat out say it. I could go up on stage and talk about nothing, and the people are going to walk out and say, holy fuck, that was awesome. But that's because I know how to deliver,
Right.
and it's my authentic delivery. But to me, that cheapens the whole process.
Right.
You know, I feel like as a speaker, as a person who does educating on these subjects, you have an obligation to make sure that you bring it down to the person's level. I mean, you've seen me speak with other people where I've stopped other people in their,
Right.
you know, I've said, hey, wait, this person clearly doesn't understand what the fuck you're saying. And I broke it down
Right.
because, dude, that's your obligation. That person paid a price to come see you. They need to leave with some useful information.
Right.
It does no good to anyone except your own ego to go up there and pretend like you're Jesus.
Right. Right.
You follow what I'm saying?
Absolutely. And
So a lot of people give me shit because of how plain spoken that I am. And most people that follow the show love it. But some people, you know, I've had comments like from some peers. They're like, dude, you know, the way you present yourself, blah, blah, blah. And they kind of critical about it. And it's like, look, dude, I feel like that's how most people communicate. You know, I feel like when I go to a bar, I go to a restaurant, and we're getting real and we're getting to be friendly and we're having a couple drinks, the conversation always turns into something as the way that I speak. You know what I mean? It's a friendly, you know, you talk shit. It's just it's a more casual way of communicating. And I feel
people just like relate to that because that's how they speak on
right.
general.
And so trying to smarten it up doesn't do anybody any
No.
favors
Right.
when you're trying to educate someone.
Right.
You know?
Right. Absolutely. And wouldn't you agree that a lot of people, I mean, definitely this is true, the people that listen to the show, but a lot of people are genuinely nice people, and when they hear speakers that are like way over their heads, they assume something's wrong with them.
Yes,
You
dude,
know?
look.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say. Like, there is shit that other speakers say that I honestly, like, I have to text them and ask them what the fuck they're talking about. Like, guys I'm friends with. Like, hey, what do you mean by this? Because I don't get it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Absolutely. Well,
And I'm not ashamed to say that.
right.
You know, I'm a smart motherfucker, dude. Honestly, like at school, I got D's. But, like, when I tested out, you know, I did great. I was at the very, very top. You know, but I guess what I'm saying is like, this whole space is not about us. It's about sharing practicalities that people can walk away with and use. And I don't see that happening a lot. I see that happening. Here's what I see happening a lot. Go up on stage, act like you're Jesus, and then, hey, buy my program when you want to learn the tools.
Right.
So that's what we're going to do is we're going to fucking give you the tools
Right.
in a plain English way.
Right. So you always say you have to know the what before you know the how. And the how obviously is getting stuff done, accomplishing things. The what is you're talking about seeing what it is you want to accomplish. And we
Right.
know that all of the guys that really know what they're talking about say that what is supremely important is having a vision for the kind of life you want to live and what you want to accomplish. So that's the first topic. If you're okay with that,
yeah.
let's talk about
Look,
vision.
man,
how do you maintain that?
That's a great place to start. Well, let's talk about how to develop that, first of all, because I talk to a lot of people. Man, I talked to one of my own guys yesterday about something as simple as what kind of car he wanted to drive in the future. And he's like, well, I don't know. And I'm like, well, then you ain't ever going to what do you think's going to happen? You're going to keep driving the same truck that you've been driving for 15 years. And that's okay if that's what you want.
Right.
But what I'm saying is you have to develop a vision. And most people don't take the time to do that. And when they do take the time to do that, they limit themselves. And so let's cover both those aspects. Number one, you've got to fucking develop a vision for what you want your life to be like. All right. That means you have to think about what kind of house you want to live in, what kind of car you want to drive, what kind of money you want to make, what kind of family you want to have. All right. Not just material things, but all things. What kind of service you want to do, what kind of impact you want to make through philanthropy. All right. You need to think about all those things. All right. And most people don't take the time to even do that. And that's why most people get caught in the average Joe cycle of life. Go to school, get the list, go to school, get married, have kids, get in huge debt, be forced to work by that debt. That's the American way, just so you guys know. Okay. The American way is not, they say the American dream. Okay. There is the American dream, but the American way goes like this: go to school, get married, have kids, get in a fuckload of debt, and be forced to work, which is really no different than fucking slavery. It's another form. All right. Tie people to something that they can't get away from. So they're forced to do this. And that's because the economy needs worker bees. All right. There's no worker bees. Guess what? No fucking work gets done. That's the American way. All right. So be aware of that, first of all. But when we talk about vision, our whole lives we're taught different things, conflicting things. When you're little, what do your parents tell you? Oh, Johnny, you could be anything you want. You want to be an astronaut? Yeah, you could be an astronaut, blah, blah, blah. You get to be about 7 years old and you go to school and you say, yeah, I'm going to be an astronaut. What happens? The kids make fun of you. And they say, you're not going to fucking be an astronaut.
You know what percentage of people in the world become astronauts? They start telling you the facts.
Right. Yeah. Like, how many people, I want to be a professional baseball player. You know how hard that is to do? And then eventually, like, you go home and you're like, well, fucking Tommy at school said that, you can't do that. And then your parents say, well, he's right, actually. You need to be realistic with your goals. And what happens? So then we start limiting our own goals, our own visions, our own beliefs for ourselves. And a lot of that has to do with, sadly, a lot of parents do that because they're afraid of their kid actually surpassing them in life. Okay, so what they do is they set their standards on their own children, and they say things like, I want the best for my kid. I want them to be better than me, blah, 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 and I want them to have a better life than I had. But whenever they come to teaching their kids what is obtainable in life, they're teaching them that what they need to do is go to school, get a job, do the same basic job they do and make the same kind of money they make. And if you do that, you're a success. So on one hand, they're saying one thing. On another hand, they're saying another thing. And at the end of the day, we don't know what the fuck to do. And I think everybody can relate to that, growing up.
I think it also comes from the parents often not knowing what to tell their kid on how to reach their goals.
No question. Right. They're totally limited on their perspective. So there's no way if you've never made a cake before that you could fucking direct somebody how to make a cake.
Right.
Right. So there's a lot of things in play here that keep people from having a vision. Right. But a great place to start is just to say, hey, what would my ideal life look like? And the two tools that I use for practicality's sake on creating a vision are a vision board. All right. And if you don't know what that is, Google it. It's a fucking board that you put pictures of shit that you want on it. All right. I've got one in my office and I need to update it. I just had a meeting with my team here recently about updating my vision board and theirs as well, because I've accomplished everything in my vision board. And then I use the last 5-10 minutes before I go to sleep to actually visualize what I want my life to be like. All right. And so what I do is I close my eyes and I try to see myself doing the things that I want to be doing, in my ideal life. And so when you close your eyes, it's not like, oh, I see, for me, like 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, it was, my vision board had a picture of a Lamborghini, and then it had a picture of a private jet, and then it had a picture of a nice house, and all the shit that people want.
Right.
And
for the record, there's a makeavisionboard.com if people want to check that out. It looks like it's a good resource.
Or you can just get on Pinterest, because everything's on Pinterest.
Oh, right. Yeah. There you go.
Right. So I had all this stuff on my vision board. And so when I would visualize at night, I don't visualize the stuff. I visualize me living my life with that kind of lifestyle. So for me, what I used to visualize, and I started this back in 2006, 2007, when I had no money. I was making $695 a month, and I had over $65,000 in credit card debt. I started visualizing myself driving up to the airport in a Lamborghini and getting to the airplane and the door going up, you know, because Lamborghini's got vertical doors, and me being able to see like the inside of the car and like really try to see what the experience was like. And then I would like look out the door and I would see the plane, and then I would walk over to the plane. I could see like the chrome rails of the steps. Like I try to really, truly visualize it. And I would visualize that same dream over and over again when I had no reason to really believe that that was going to be happening. And guess what? I do that on a regular basis now.
So forgive me for being too detailed, but do you have a set time that you do that?
Yeah, right before I go to bed.
Right before you go to bed?
Yeah.
So not in the morning. You do it before you go
Yes.
to bed in the hopes that maybe you'll dream about it, I guess.
I don't know. It's just something I picked up.
Yeah.
And then the other dream that I had was speaking in front of people, which at that time I didn't even want to speak. I never spoke. I didn't know anything about speaking, so I had no reason to, you know, even dream that or have that vision. But I would visualize myself on stage speaking to people, and then people clapping and cheering and shit like that. And now, not even 10 years later, those two things are like reality for me.
Right.
All right. And there's tons of quantum physical and metaphysical evidence, scientific evidence on things like the law of attraction that I'm not going to get into right now. But, you know, the point is you have to have a vision. You have to have a vision that you stick to, and you have to try to see it in reality on a consistent basis. And most people never even take that first step of even creating a vision. They just take what life's given to them. You know, their vision might extend to this point. Like they're driving down the road and they see a car they like, and they're like, oh, that's cool. And then they think about it for a few days, and then that's it.
Right.
And then it goes away. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, yeah.
And that's the extent of you have to realize, like, and you know, I'm going to get some people that are going to fucking argue with me, but you know, real world evidence to me is more than whatever scientific evidence you can provide. And there's a lot of faith that has to be given to this, but I believe it. And if you choose not to believe it, that's fine. But I believe it works for me. It's done a lot for me. You know, there's only 10% of the brain that the human brain that is used, and that's for cognitive and involuntary function. All right. But there's electrical impulses all through the rest of your brain that nobody knows what the fuck they're for. Okay. So what do you think those are for? 90% of your brain is used for nothing, but there's activity going on.
Right.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, there's
gotta
so
be
much we just don't know.
Right. Exactly. We have no clue. And the point is that, you know, if you start reading in this law of attraction and visualization and all these things, you start to realize that, you know what, there's a good probability that there's a lot of shit going on the other side of your brain when it comes to visualization, attracting things, you know, all these things that these books talk about. And everybody likes to throw The Secret out there. The Secret's a fucking terrible book, to be completely honest. It's like not even an appetizer for what the law of attraction really is. There's a lot of other better books out there. But there's just so much. I've had so much happen to me, and there's so many people that will say that. I don't know one successful person that doesn't use visualization, that doesn't use some sort of vision board or goal board or and use this. And dude, there's a reason those people have the shit they have.
Right.
You know, it's because they're utilizing parts of the brain that science hasn't caught up to yet.
Right.
Well, I think a part of like that secret in quotes is that the secret is common sense. If you don't think about your goals or put your visions in front of you every single day, you're not going to think about them. You're not going to work on them. You're not going to do them.
Right.
Like,
but
it's just,
what I'm trying to get at is there's practical manuals out there of how to utilize the law of attraction.
Yeah.
There's also scientific evidence out there that it works. You know, I've read probably 30 books on it. It's pretty substantial, the information available. And everybody, like when you say the law of attraction, everybody says, oh, The Secret. And it's like, bro, if that's all you read, you don't fucking get it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You know why I think there's huge truth in what you're saying is because if you think about it, this is kind of a weird way to arrive at the conclusion, but think about when things go wrong with the brain. So like think about people who are autistic. They can perform incredible feats of, you know, like if you've ever seen the movie Rain Man,
Yeah,
like when
you and I couldn't comprehend.
Right. Like their ability to count and to memorize and that sort of thing. And then when the brain malfunctions and people see hallucinations, well, if it can do that when it's going wrong, then there has to be at some point.
Look, man.
You know what I'm saying? Like there
Yes.
has to be some point in which
But
humans are
people-
going to
see,
figure out how to do
The problem
that.
with it is that it's such a fluffy subject, and like people hear it and they're like, that sounds like total bullshit.
Right.
Like, and that's a problem I have with The Secret too, is because The Secret makes it sound like you're going to close your eyes, think of an elephant, and a fucking elephant's going to appear.
I was about to say,
you
just
know,
the name of the book kind of makes
right.
it sound
It's
fluffy.
corny
like
as
it's
fuck.
this mystical
Right.
thing.
But it was interesting enough for me to do my research, and that's what I did. And I'm going to tell you right now, it's a real thing. It's a super extremely valuable tool, visualization, and you have to practice it on a daily basis. So get yourself a vision board and learn how to visualize. Now, let me say this before you move forward with that tool. A lot of people fuck this up because what they do is instead of actually putting what they really want on their vision board, they limit themselves and say, well, here I am, I'm working at Burger King, I really want a Ferrari, but because I'm working at Burger King, I'm going to put a fucking Mustang on the fucking on my vision board.
Right.
You get it?
Right.
You can't do that. You can't think about the how here. This is just pure like what the fuck you really want.
Right.
And you have to unlimit your brain. And like, dude, if you think it would be cool to have a $50 million fucking yacht, dude, put one of those motherfuckers up there. You know what I mean? Don't think like, hey, I'm working it, here, and I'll never be able to afford that on this salary, so I'm going to put this up there. When you do that, you're not only consciously, you're subconsciously limiting your whole entire life. So that would be my only like warning to this. Make sure that you're visualizing and dreaming on an unlimited scope. This time is not for the how. This is for the what.
Right.
Okay?
Right. And going back to repeat something you said earlier, make sure it's what you want, not what you think other people want. Even if, you use the example of the Ferrari, and maybe what somebody wants is not the Ferrari. Like, even though that's sort of the
100%.
iconic,
Yeah.
maybe it's something else. But I think
But
that's
the point,
key
Vaughn, is
it's
that
gotta
most
be-
people never even have that conversation with themselves.
Right.
They don't even have a conversation, what do I really want?
Right.
A lot of people dream about what they think they should want, and that's what they dream about. And you know what? That's not a bad thing. If you don't know what the fuck you want and you start dreaming about shit that you think you're supposed to want, but it's still big shit, eventually you're going to get in a position where you're going to be able to be like, all right, well, sometimes, you got to have what you don't want to realize what you want. So I don't know that that's
Yeah,
a
that's a
terrible
good point.
thing.
Yeah.
It's all about learning and progressing. There's been plenty of things I thought I wanted that I found out that I really didn't want after I had them. So I think that's okay. I just think that, it's important to sit down and have the conversation with yourself about what you want. Because if you don't go out and try to think about what you want and visualize what you want, you're going to end up with whatever you get gifted to you by default, which is going to be a big pile of poop. That's it.
Yeah.
You
That's a
know,
good point.
you're going to
it
get
doesn't
what's
just go for things; it goes for people too.
Right.
Like the kind of people you want
Yeah,
in your life,
100%.
and if there's like a significant other that you want to be a companion in your journey, like what that person would look like their characteristics and
Right.
everything, who you
100%.
surround yourself with.
yeah.
So along with that, number 2 is motivation. And as you know, everybody's passion for something comes and goes. The question that I would say, you've talked about how you are naturally internally motivated, but obviously I know in talking to you that there are practical tools that you use to keep your motivation stoked or to move on, even in those days, like you've called them, the tombstone days, even in those days where you don't feel like going on. So
Well,
drop some science on us.
first thing people need to understand is that, I'm no different than anybody else. I mean, yes, I run at a very high intensity, at a very high motor when I'm hot. Probably as high as anybody out there. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
As intense as anybody out there when I'm hot. But you know what? I'm not always hot, just like you're not always hot.
Mm-hmm.
And there are days and months, weeks at a time where I feel like I don't want to do shit. That's the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? That is, a lot of people see me personally or these other motivated people from the outside and they think that they're always that way. And some of them will tell you that they're always that way and they're full of shit. I've not met one person out there that doesn't go through the ebb and flow of motivation. Sometimes we just have it and sometimes we don't.
Right.
All right. But the difference between people who make it and people who don't make it is what you do in the time that you don't. Okay, it's easy to do the things you need to do whenever you have it. When you have that fucking fire and you have the intensity and you have the will to win and you have all the intangibles of success working for you, you know, the hunger, the intensity, the fire, the will to win, those are the intangibles. You can't teach that shit. When you have that shit working in your favor, it's easy to fucking go out and do what you need to do. Anybody does it. We all do it. Every single person, when they feel great, they go out and they do the right stuff. Just a fact of human nature. Mm-hmm. The difference is what you do when you don't feel like doing it. Okay? And that comes down to cultivating discipline and cultivating habits. All right? You have to create a habit of forcing yourself through the motions. Okay? And this is important for two reasons. One, when you force yourself through the motions, you're being productive even though, you know, you don't feel like it. Mm-hmm. All right? Which means in a competitive atmosphere, which most of life is, you're moving ahead of the people that are sitting on their ass because most people don't have the discipline to move forward when they don't feel like it. Mm-hmm. All right? So you're, let's say, ebb and flow, 50% motivation, 50% not feeling like doing anything. That means you're 50% ahead of somebody at any given time because you cultivated that point. All right? So in business, it's extremely important. You got to go do the things you want that you have to do even when you don't feel like doing it. Huge key to success. All right? Number two, the reason this is important is because motivation comes through motion. All right? You can, when you move, you create momentum, which is going to create motion. All right? Or, I'm sorry, motivation. All right? So you're going to, it's just like when you go for a run. Everybody here has gone for a run or exercised when they don't feel like it. All right. When you first start, dude, your feet are heavy. They feel like shit. You don't want to move. 5 minutes in, you're feeling okay. 10 minutes in, you feel great. And you're like, fuck yeah, I'm glad I did this. Right. And then the rest of your day is turned around. So you have to realize that to get through the ebbs and flows of motivation in life, a key to get back into that hot zone is by forcing yourself through the motions and giving that momentum to work for you. Does that make sense?
Makes a ton of sense.
Yeah. So like you could develop that motion and that momentum by just going through the motions and forcing yourself. And it doesn't take long. It doesn't take like, you know, this extremely long period of time to make that happen. Most people, it takes an extremely long time to get the momentum back because they don't force themselves through the motion. So a key to having higher motivation all the time is that when you're feeling low and you feel like shit, go through the motions to get the momentum to work for you, and you come back out of that naturally much more quickly.
Right.
Follow
that
what I'm
way
saying?
you're not starting from the beginning every single time too,
Exactly.
and you're not even more discouraged even though you're motivated.
No, because at the end of the day, the results you're producing, you're winning all the time, even when you don't feel like it, because you've made a habit out of doing the things you need to do when you don't want to do it. The result is still the same. So if you're measuring results, you know, you're still getting the result even when you don't feel like it. Mm-hmm. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it may not feel like as good of a result, but when you compare the baseline of every other person on earth, when they're not doing shit and they're sitting on the couch eating fucking Doritos, watching The Walking Dead, and you're out busting your ass even though you don't feel like it, dude, you're still winning.
Right. Right.
It's a huge deal.
So when you talk about creating habits and getting certain actions in motion, let me use this analogy. You tell me if I'm understanding you better or accurately. So obviously, in a game situation, let's just pick basketball, there are always situations in a game where coaches have set plays. So if we have a certain circumstance, we say, okay, guys, we're going to call a set play that you've practiced, you've perfected, and you know that all of the things being equal, it should work. Is that kind of what you're saying when you talk about creating habits?
This is something that I learned from Tony Robbins. If you don't listen to his information and you haven't studied his product, that dude's the OG. I mean, he is the fucking original gangster when it comes to motivation. Mm-hmm. I love Tony Robbins. He's a fucking genius. He's the guy, period. Okay? His thing has always and always has been get up in the morning and go exercise. Okay? And I believe that because, dude, when you get up and you go do 30, 45 minutes of exercise, whether it be a walk, and dude, when you walk, don't walk like a fucking pussy. I'm talking about walking and get some sweat going. Put some effort into the walk.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
Like, dude, I see some people walk and they're just walking like they're at the fucking mall.
Yeah, power walk.
Dude, walk with some fucking intent.
Like do a hike type thing.
You know what I'm saying?
Something.
Yes, get some sweat going. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? You don't have to run. I don't run. You don't have to run. Dude, I've lost 60 pounds this year. I haven't fucking run one time. You know why? Because I hate running. I hate it. When I was in high school playing sports, running was a punishment, and I always got in trouble, so I always had to run.
Yeah.
So I fucking hate running.
Preach.
You can get great results by walking with a purpose. All right? So yes, call a set play. Get your fucking ass out of bed, put on your fucking shoes, and heel toe that motherfucker for 45 minutes. Okay? And you'll be amazed at how quickly your day develops momentum. All right? You're up. You're moving, you're sweating, you come back to the house, and you're like, fuck yeah, dude, I'm ready to kick ass. Okay, that's an example of a tool that you can use. And not only is it going to help you with momentum, you're going to physically improve over time, which is going to, help your life in every way possible. So we could talk about all these tools for creating momentum, but, that's where also the power list comes into play.
Right.
Consistently executing your critical tasks, which we talked about in Kill It Every Day. If you haven't listened to that, go back and listen to it. But yeah, man, you've got to create motivation out of thin air sometimes. And the people who win know how to do that. And the way they do that is by going through the motions even when they don't feel like doing it. It's discipline.
No, I love the emphasis on just getting up and moving.
Yeah.
So we covered efficiency, but we're also kind of covering discipline along with that. So I can skip ahead probably to the next one, because you kind of touched on efficiency and discipline together. You want me to skip ahead to the next one?
Yeah.
Okay, so the next one is just learning. You tell everybody, it's important for success to be learning something new every day. Okay, so I guess everybody knows you're a big book reader,
right?
But just generally speaking, give it,
okay,
what's the school of Andy?
All right, look, learning is a mentality. It's a character trait. It's not something you practice. It's something that you become, a student, okay? And what I mean by that, and we talked about this recently, I don't remember which podcast, but what I mean by that is that when you become a student of life, you're always learning. You're always picking up this here or that there, all right? And we talked about there's passive learning, there's active learning, and you need to be working on both. Active learning would be things like reading 10 pages of a book per day, not Dungeons and Dragons. I'm talking about a book you can fucking educational book,
right,
on the topic of whatever it is you're trying to learn. Or reading for an hour a day. Or half an hour a day, every day, all right? That's active learning. Listening to a podcast, active learning. Then there's passive learning. And passive learning would be learning from the situations and circumstances that happen to you on a daily basis. You meet someone, they say something or spark an idea, and you're like, fuck, that's a great idea, and you make a little note, right? I was at lunch with a friend yesterday. We were just having casual friend lunch, and he said, man, what this would be cool if you put a little note, and we start talking about this idea that had to do with a business that wasn't even one of my businesses. And I'm like, and I automatically took that idea and put it in perspective to my company, and I came up with a great idea, right? So my point is like, you've got to be in the mindset to pick things up along the way. Great idea. Most of the great ideas that we've had as a company in the no, not you. in the history of our company have come from just little things that have happened along the way that we were listening. You have to be listening, and that's what I mean by being a student is, whether you're at a restaurant or a wedding reception or a barbecue or you're at a beach or whatever it is that you do outside of work, pay attention. Pay attention to the conversations you have. Pay attention to what people say. Pay attention to people's actions. We use the example of, waiters going the extra mile and doing extra things that could spark service ideas for your company or how to create extra wow factor. I'm just rolling here because I'm so used to this mentality. It's just who I am. It's a character trait. Like, I'm a fucking student.
Right. So I'd love to drive home this point because, and I know not everybody in our audience is religious, so bear with me as I quote a Bible verse right now, and then I'll explain. But there's a Bible verse in the Old Testament that says, the heavens declare the glory of God. The sky proclaims the work of his hands. Day after day, they pour forth speech. Night after night, they display knowledge. There is no speech or language where their voice is not heard. And that's the Bible's way of saying the universe is always talking. It's always sending out messages.
You just got to listen.
You got to listen.
Yeah.
You got to listen.
And that's what I mean, learning and all, like one of our core values here at the company is always be learning. And that's what that means. It doesn't mean just read a book.
Right.
Now, it does mean read a book, but that's not all it means.
Right.
You should always be reading a book. Every fucking day, you should be reading a minimum of 10 pages or 30 minutes. Okay? Every day. But that's not all it means. It means that you have to listen. You have to open up your brain and you have to become a student. And that also goes along with staying humble. Like you don't know everything, so pay attention to what everybody has to offer you. That little old lady at the grocery store that is annoying and runs her cart down the middle of the fucking aisle that you want to punch in the face, right? Mm-hmm. She probably knows a lot of shit that you don't fucking know.
Right.
That you could learn from her. So why not strike up a conversation for 10 minutes?
Right.
People don't do that shit. They instead, they let their ego get in the way of their ability to learn by unconsciously and sometimes consciously ranking themselves in society in certain ways. Mm-hmm. Hey, there's the guy at the butcher, I'm making $100,000. There's the butcher guy. He's cutting my fucking my ham.
Right.
I can't, this guy, all he could do is cut ham. How the fuck do you know that? You don't know what that guy knows.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I think it's important that, to, like you said, always be learning. I think there's a lot of people that they may go to work every day and they feel like they really killed it at work. They really did everything they were supposed to, but then they go home and they sit on the couch and they don't try to get any benefit outside of
that's what I'm saying.
It
it's a character
time.
trait.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. It's not, this is not like, hey, go do this. This is develop a value and a character trait within you.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
To always be absorbing. And I feel like every successful person that I know has that trait, and they consistently listen far more than they speak.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And believe it or not, because most of the people listening to this are used to me talking,
Right.
I actually do listen far more than I speak.
Right.
And you can form those habits.
Right.
Like instead of going home and, practicing sitting on the couch and turning on Netflix, practice going home, sitting on the couch and opening up your book and reading those 10 pages.
Dude, all you got to do, that should be in your critical tasks list on your power list. For years, that was in there for me. Right. Read 10 pages of a book.
Right.
Read 10 pages of a book.
And then it becomes habit. And You don't have to think about it. You just do it.
Exactly.
Something you said earlier that when you were talking about, right at the beginning of the podcast, when we were talking about how sometimes success and motivation gurus, they talk about things and we had no idea what they were talking about. And you said, sometimes with some of my peers, I'll actually say to them,
what do you mean?
What do you mean?
Right.
What are you talking about? And that goes back to not just listening, but something I know you do a lot, which is feel free to ask questions.
Dude,
don't be embarrassed to ask
I
questions.
text Gary the other day, and I'm going to say, I love Gary, okay? He's a good guy. Gary Vaynerchuk is who I'm talking about. I texted him the other day, and he made a video on emotional intelligence versus IQ, and he calls it EQ versus IQ. And Gary likes to use fancy words sometimes. He just does. And Gary is so fucking smart that he doesn't realize that he's talking over a lot of people. And so I had to text him. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about emotionally intelligent? Like, I don't know what that means, bro. And I've shared the stage with you.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, and we had a little conversation and he clarified it. But the point of the matter is that be humble enough to ask a question.
Right.
You know what I mean? A lot of people don't want to ask a question because they don't want to feel like they're stupid. It's like when you're in, sixth grade and you don't want to be the guy asking a question, but realize that, or let's say high school, right?
Right.
All the kids make fun of you for asking the question.
Right.
When they have the same question.
Not only that, where the fuck are those motherfuckers now?
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Peaked in high school.
Because really, if you don't, people who don't ask questions aren't concerned about getting better.
No, man.
They're just concerned about looking good.
Right. And it's okay to ask things like that. Like if he's talking about emotional intelligence, I don't know what the fuck he's talking about.
Right. Right. Well, it's the old saying that's true. There are no stupid questions, only stupid people.
Yeah. He's like, well, it needs to be, we're talking about empathy and this and that. And I'm like, okay, well, I know what those words mean.
Right.
Right. But what does this mean?
Right. No, that's a good point. All right, number. Well, I don't know what number it is, but we're on the next one, which is criticism. And obviously, this is something that anybody who's committed themselves to success is going to deal with. How do you push on past criticism? And I know that there are two types of criticism. There's internal and external. And in some ways, the external is the harder
there's
one.
more types.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. I was going to say the internal one's the harder one.
No, there's more than two types. Okay, you've got. Let's talk about. You've got two types and then subcategories of those types. You have constructive criticism, and then you have just bullshit criticism, all right, or quote unquote hate.
Right.
All right. Then under those, you have internal constructive criticism, okay, and then you have internal. I guess it would be destructive criticism, right? Okay, quote unquote hate.
Right.
You have to be able to be aware enough to identify and the difference between the two, and you have to be humble enough to admit the difference, because sometimes people will word constructive criticism in such a way that it sounds like they're attacking you, but in reality, what they're saying is probably true or could be true, and if you dismiss it as them hating, you're missing an opportunity to improve. You know, so you have to walk a very fine line when it comes to criticism, and you have to be aware to recognize what type each one is. Let's say, for example, somebody comes at you really hard on Facebook and says, "Oh, Andy, you know what? Fuck you. You're a piece of shit. Blah 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 blah. You know, fuck you and your whole family." I think that's funny. Like, how I handle that is I laugh.
Right.
And I make a smart ass comment back.
Right.
Like, because I'm usually I'm like the Floyd Mayweather of the fucking internet. Like, you're not gonna fucking beat me in a comment war.
Right.
All right. I will beat
I've seen people try, and I actually enjoy.
I'm undefeated,
watching it.
dude.
No. I know you're undefeated, but I enjoy watching.
laugh reading it.
I enjoy watching the wake on the. It's
Like,
pretty
you're
funny.
not, dude. If you're gonna troll me, you're better off trolling someone else.
Yeah,
Because I'm gonna fucking make you look silly. But that's how I deal with the destructive bullshit criticism. Now, real criticism, like now here's the thing. Sometimes it'll sound like they're attacking you, and they are, but they also have a point. And you have to be able to push through them attacking you and absorb that point to improve. Okay? And so in that situation, you know what? And like, let's say it's a disgruntled customer, somebody who has a real point. I will try to reconcile that situation with that person first and foremost and say, "Hey, listen, I totally understand where you're coming from. I get that. You know, I see you're upset. You know, I didn't mean to upset you. And you make a good point. I'll take that into consideration." And that's all people want. They want to be taken into consideration. Now, sometimes people will make constructive criticism. That doesn't mean that it's right.
Right.
So you also have to know yourself and know who you are and know what track you're on and what way you're going. And sometimes people are making things that they think are right, but they aren't right for you. So there's a lot of things to take into play here. You know, it'd be real easy for me to sit here and say, "Oh, criticism, fuck all the haters." That's what everybody says online. But if you're that kind of person and you dismiss everybody as a quote unquote hater that criticizes you, you're missing a huge opportunity to improve. So you have to be listening. It goes back to what we talked about with learning. You've got to be listening, and you've got to be aware, and you've got to be able to absorb, you know, what you can use, and you throw the rest in the trash. Like, for example, if someone comes at you hard and they're mean to you and they say some rude shit, but they also have a good point, I'm thankful that person made that comment. And I take the part that I can use, and I take the rest of it, and I wash it off my shoulders, and I don't care. You know
I
what
was just
mean?
about to say, you can't let everything else that they say wear on you,
Right.
because then you're
In
hating
fact,
on yourself
you're
because
missing-
you're trying to make it like it's true.
You're missing an opportunity to make an advocate there, because what that person is really saying is, I care enough about you to be pissed off about this so that you will improve.
Exactly. And a lot of people just take the hurt of that statement and not listen to what you have
Exactly,
to say.
and they get defensive.
It depends on who it's coming from and their reason for doing
Right.
so. And if you can look at that and be completely honest with yourself and say, "Yeah, you know, I need some development in this area,"
Right.
take that and work on it.
Right. You have to use everything that's offered to you, you know, when it comes to success. And that's one thing I think people, especially the thing is like, fuck all the haters. I mean, how many t-shirts have I seen this week that new companies say, fuck the haters or whatever.
Right.
You know, it's like, come on, dude.
Right.
You know, but let's move on to a different sort of criticism real quick is also.
Can I get you to clarify something real
Yeah.
quick with it? So you talked about the kind of criticism that is well-meaning but really ultimately not right for you. So that presupposes, though, that a person has a pretty good understanding of who they are as people, you know. And I know we've talked about the overuse of the word self-awareness, but I mean, in practical terms, how did you get to know yourself better to where you knew?
Dude, that's just experience,
that's
man.
Experience.
Yeah, I mean, there's still times where I'm like, man, I wonder if that guy has a really good point or not. You know, I consider the point. You've just got to make a decision. You know, most people can't do that. That's the problem. Most people are so caught up on their internal criticism that when external criticism comes at them, they like crumble because they're already so fragile on the inside. If you're going to be great, and this is a conversation about something else that I have often, you know, the word ego. If you're going to be great at something, you have to have a fucking ego. Okay, and I'm not saying you have to have a fucking giant ego or overinflated ego, but you've got to value yourself and you've got to think you're pretty badass. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. You should think you're badass, but you shouldn't think you're so badass that you're better than everybody.
Right.
And you have to develop, you know, an attitude of confidence, an attitude of belief in yourself. And most people sadly never get to that point. And so when external criticism comes their way, I mean, I see people on Facebook that get 2, 3, 4 likes a post and one person disagrees with them and they're making like a gigantic post on the internet about, you know, this big passive aggressive posts about certain people in quotes who say certain things. And it's like, dude, are you that fucking fragile?
Yeah.
Like, let's be real, man. Like, you think Warren Buffett gives a fuck what people say about him? Or Bill Gates? Is Bill Gates on the internet writing these big fucking posts about certain people who make certain comments and I mean, dude, no, you know, that's not how successful people act.
And a way to build that up, just like in your Snapchat, which I really enjoyed, I think it was yesterday, whenever you were saying to fulfill those things and feel that way about yourself, you have to make promises to yourself and keep them.
Yeah.
You have to be able to prove to yourself that you are who you say you are and who you want to be.
Right.
You just have to put in the work for that, or else you're
That's
not going to have that confidence.
Like Vaughn and I talk about that all the time. You have to earn the right to have that confidence. You have to earn the right to feel good. You got to earn the right to have self-esteem. And those things are earned by doing work that you tell yourself you're going to do.
Right.
That's it.
Right. So we're going to go into the last point here in just a second, guys. But if you would like to check out the show page for this episode, it's themfceo.com/P79. And also take some time to write a review for us on iTunes. We really appreciate that. It means a lot to us. Share if you benefit from this information.
Guys, what do we got to do to get a share from you?
Yeah, I know.
I mean, let's be real.
Yeah, post it on your Facebook or something.
Yeah, or share it on Snap. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't ask for anything. I don't charge anything. I get tons of comments and messages, and I appreciate them all. But if you truly value what we're doing here and you value the message and you think that it's benefited you, give us a share.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Give us a share. Bring me a friend. Bring me one other fucking friend. One other person. That's all. Not 1 million, not 1 trillion, not 100. One.
Yeah.
Bring me one motherfucking friend. That's all I want.
Right. This isn't a business for us, guys. This is a cause. This is a movement for us, and we mean that. I mean, I know we all mean that very strongly.
Yeah.
So we want to change. We want to transform society. We want to change some of the stuff that's going on in the world.
We
So
want to fucking get rid of all the pussies.
yes, definitely.
Not literally.
I know. I was about to say our friends want to touch your friends.
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah. Not literally. Figuratively. Tyler would like it if we literally got rid of all the pussies.
Wait. No.
no.
So also, guys, connect with us on social media, on Instagram and Twitter. We're at Andy Frisella, at Tyler is MAI_TYLER. It's yours is so hard. You need to change that. And then I'm at Vaughn Kohler, VAUGHNKOHLER, and Kelsey is. I think you can.
It's
Google
at
Kelsey.
Kelsogene, KELSOJENE.
Yes.
Guys, check it out Snapchat too, man. I'm doing daily motivational snaps, daily lessons on Snap. I was hitting it hard on Periscope, but I'm not doing that anymore. I'm doing it all on Snapchat. So if you're not following me on Snap, make sure you do that.
Yeah, and we do. We've talked about this in the last couple of episodes, but we do have some really, really cool things coming up, guys. So if you haven't signed up for announcements from us, and also to get the podcast straight to your inbox, go to themfceo.com right on the left column, right on the right column, there will be a place where you can sign up and do that. And like I said, we've got some really, really cool stuff coming up in the next couple months.
But let's move on to this last point.
So the final point is adversity, okay? And this is obviously a huge topic in success. And it dawned on me, we were talking about this the other day, Andy, is that a lot of people, we've gotten a lot of new listeners, and some of them might not be familiar with the story that you told in the very first episode. I don't know if you want to tell the whole story, but I thought it would be kind of cool if you just kind of give the cliff notes of that story and then talked about how you practically have learned to use adversity.
I could do that, but let me say this first. Everybody thinks their situation is the hardest situation, okay? They have this belief that's ingrained into them that they are different. I'm different, okay? But it's the but syndrome. Yeah, I get that, but, and then they fill in the blank with whatever it is they think is so fucking hard about their life. Let me tell you something. Your life is not that fucking hard, okay? You make it hard by telling yourself this bullshit of, oh, I understand what you're saying, but, and then fill in the blank.
Right.
All right? So quit with the fucking, but. Your life is not that hard. It just isn't. There's a million other fucking people out there who have done what it is that you want to do with harder circumstances than you have had. That's a fact of life, including myself. There's many, many people out there who have done way, way, way more than me, a million times more than me in life, that have had a much harder time. Okay? That's just fact. So when you're telling yourself, oh, my dad left when I was 7, my mom spanked me with a wooden spoon, fuck your shit. No one gives a shit. It doesn't matter, okay? You have to move past that and use those things as a tool to move forward. And what Vaughn's talking about, which a lot of you guys may or may not know, is when I was in college in 2003, I got attacked and stabbed in the face and in the back. And I had 160 stitches in my face. I almost died. I'm not going to tell the whole story. If you want to hear the whole story, go back and listen to the first podcast. Yeah. And, I went from being, a normal looking dude to looking like the dude from the movie Mask, Rocky, with your face swollen up to the size of a fucking grapefruit. All right. And everybody knows that feeling, right or wrong. When you see somebody who's very disabled or handicapped and your first reaction is like look away because you don't want to feel like you're staring. Well, no one fucking looked at me in the eye for probably 2 years. I would go to the grocery store. I would try to check out. The lady checking me out would look at the fucking floor. Okay? Don't fucking do that, by the way, because it's rude as fuck, and it does hurt, and people notice it. All right? I worked retail. I worked the counter. The reaction of what I would get would be one of two things. The person wouldn't look at me, or they would look right at you and be like, Jesus, what happened to your fucking face? All right? And my face was fucked up. When I say swollen the size of a grapefruit, I mean it, for over a year. All right. Went through massive depression, thought about suicide and all these other things and, all the shit that, people go through when they have a traumatic injury. And, when you go from, a good looking young man to having your face totally fucked up when you're 23 years old in the prime of your life, it fucks with you. Okay. There's a number of lessons to be learned here. I mean, I could talk about perspective. I could talk about adversity. But I want to stay on the track of adversity. That was a really hard time for me, to the point where, I was literally thinking, a lot of people say, oh, let's think about suicide. No, I was fucking really thinking about it. You know what I mean? Not just the fad of people trying to get attention. Mm-hmm. And, it was bad. And my face had these fucking massive scars, still do today. I don't have any nerve feeling in the left side of my face. And, it was just rough, man. And a few years went by and I started to get better and things went better. And a few things happened that helped change my perspective for the better. But one thing in particular happened. And Chris and I were in business. We only had one store at the time. And we would go to these giant trade shows like the Arnold Classic, the Mr. Olympia, the Europa shows, the big trade shows. And we would meet people. And, before I got stabbed, we would meet people, and then you would meet them again the next year, and they would act like they didn't meet you, like because they didn't remember you. After that happened, what started happening was everybody remembered me because of my fucking face, because I had these giant scars of it. Oh, Andy from Supplement Superstores? And they're like, oh, no. Yeah, dude, the guy with the scars on his face. Oh, yeah. All right? And so I started to see that there was a benefit to what had happened. I was very memorable. And so I could go around, make introductions, and meet people, and they would always remember me, always, because of that. And so I started to use what had happened as something that was actually good for our business. And now it's to the point where, people draw pictures of me from the project, from the MFCEO project, like fans, and they put my scars on there, and they'll say, dude, your fucking scars are badass.
Yeah.
And it's become this like character trait of my personality. And it's something that at the time I would have never been able to imagine. But my point in telling this story, and if you want to hear the whole story, go listen to the first podcast. But the point of this is that successful people know how to take their adversities and turn them into assets. They know how to take punches in the fucking face and use that same energy to go with the flow and move in the right direction to where it benefits them. All right. So no matter what your situation, whether it be, personal situation, financial situation, it doesn't matter. Your adversity, the things that are happening to you and are frustrating you and you perceive them as holding you back, are in reality probably the same things that could be used to move and propel you forward if you just stopped feeling sorry for yourself and stopped making excuses for yourself and looked at it from a non-emotional viewpoint and just said, all right, well, how can I fucking use this to move forward? And people get so caught up in their own story, in their own pity, in their own fucking bullshit, and their own, now attention has become the thing everybody wants because of social media, attention deficit disorder used to mean like you got to take fucking Ritalin to focus. Like, I feel like attention deficit disorder is like something everybody has now if they don't get enough likes on their fucking Instagram,
right?
But the point is that if you can get over all that shit and look at what is going on in your life from a non-emotional viewpoint, I'm pretty sure there's a way for you to benefit from the bad things that happen to you. And I think all successful people have the ability to pivot on situations that are perceived to be bad and turn them into things that are good. And there's people listening right now who are saying, oh, Andy, but you don't know what it's like to blah, 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 blah. Well, no, that thinking that you're having right now is what's causing you to not fucking move.
It's because you're stuck in your own world. You're stuck in your own head, and the world is so much bigger than the situation that you're going through right now.
Most likely, nobody gives a fuck.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like when I used to walk through the grocery store and nobody would look at me. It wasn't because they thought I was disgusting. It was because they didn't want to feel like they were staring. It wasn't that because they hated my face. It was because they didn't want to make me feel bad, which inadvertently made me feel bad. Right? Dude, most people honestly don't give a fuck. Like they don't. They just don't care. So the fact that you think everybody cares about whatever hardship just shows how big your fucking ego is. No one gives a fuck. Right. So get over yourself, figure out how to use whatever it is that's happened to you as a, dude, I mean, I've got friends, Derek Wida, my friend Casey Mitchell. Those dudes lost legs in Afghanistan and Iraq. Lost their fucking legs. Okay? Both of them making a huge positive impact in society. Both of them still struggle. They both still struggle every day. But you know what? They chose to take what has happened to them where they could have just become this, they could have sat in a VA hospital in a wheelchair and everybody would have felt sorry for them and went by every day and said, oh man, thanks for your service and your sacrifice. Right? And that would be their life. But they chose differently. You know what they chose to do? They chose to fucking use their story as a asset to move them forward. And I can tell you right now, neither one of them would be as popular as they are if they have both their fucking legs. That's the truth. So even in that case, it's an asset for them.
Right.
And I don't think either one of them would tell you any different.
Right.
You know, so you have to learn how to use your negativity, negativity as a perceived emotion. You know what I mean? You've got to learn how to use the things that you perceive to be bad and negative and frustrating and hard, and learn how, if maybe you didn't lose a leg, but maybe you were abused, or maybe you had, a disease that you overcame. You have to be able to share that story and use that to forge your strength to move forward. You know, maybe whatever's happened to you isn't something that everybody could see, and it's not a story in itself, like my face or like Casey's and Derek's legs or a million other people. But maybe it's something that has happened to you that you can't externalize, but you need to internalize the strength and the assets that it's creating on the inside for you to move forward in a positive direction. Does it make sense?
Absolutely.
So it's not always about like, oh, you need to tell your story. Maybe you don't need to tell your story, but you need to be able to take what has happened to you and let those things forge you to become stronger. You know what I mean? It's not a situation where life just comes and beats the shit out of you and just continues to beat on you and beat on you and beat on you. No, bad things are going to happen. That's a fact of life. They happen to everybody. It's your choice how you react to them that is going to define the rest of your life.
Yeah, I want to reemphasize that. Months ago when we talked about this and we were talking about this topic and what we're going to talk about in the book, what you were going to share in the book, I specifically asked you, so what are you going to tell people in terms of developing this ability to see the good in the bad and to turn an asset, turn adversity into an asset? And I will never forget your answer. You said, Vaughn, it's not an ability, it's a choice, because the good is there. You just have to choose it.
Right.
Well, it's just like bringing it into the point from earlier, even though that's the thing that I really admire about like either in your situation and Derek and Casey's situation. Like, I'm sure they dealt with the same kind of suicidal thoughts that you thought of, and
I know
trying
for a
to figure
fact.
out, yeah.
'Cause I've talked to them both about it.
And going back into earlier, even though they didn't feel like continuing every day, you didn't feel like continuing every day. You had scars on your face that you didn't even know how to deal with personally, and you still got behind that counter at the retail store every day.
I mean, dude, look.
You just did it.
Sometimes you got to do it.
Yeah.
You
You
pay your
know, gotta
bills.
fucking eat, man.
Because you can't make it
exactly.
worse on yourself. I mean,
Exactly.
you got to keep moving forward.
No, but people tend to glorify their own adversity because it creates attention. You know, they like to tell their story. There's two different kinds of people that like to tell their story. There's people that tell their story, and then at the end of it, they say, guess what? I'm not a fucking bitch, and all this shit bad happened to me, and I still went out and I'm doing this, this, and this, and so can you. And then at the end, there's the other person at the end of their story that says, send me $100
Give me
in
$1.
my GoFundMe page, and feel sorry for me. You know what I mean? And that's the two kinds of people. You know, if you're a pity-seeking, sympathy-seeking, and all this shit that that you're doing, dude, you're only selling yourself short. You're going to end up being broke. You're going to be miserable. You're ruining your whole life. So if you don't know how to take adversity, whatever that is to you, and use it to your advantage, you're missing out on a gigantic skill, a gigantic practical skill that can help you be successful.
So I'm looking back over our notes here, and I've got so just to recap: dream board. Get in the dream board is
Vision board.
obviously vision. Excuse me, vision board.
Nightly visualization.
Nightly visualization. Get in motion. In terms of the motivation, just move. In terms of learning, we're talking about listening and asking questions. I'm actually
Active and passive learning.
Active and passive learning. For criticism, your actual nut and bolt tool for criticism was just
be aware.
Being aware.
Being aware. Is it constructive? Is it destructive? Is it internal? Is it external? Can you use it? How do you use it?
Right. And then the final thing, guys, was just choose to see the good and the bad. Choose to use adversity as an advantage. You want to wrap us up?
And let the bad things that come your way serve their purpose. All right? Bad things are happening. They're going to happen. Bad shit's going to happen to me today. I can learn from every single bad thing. It goes back to the learning principle we talked about. If you're a student, if you're a person of the mindset that I'm always learning, bad things aren't necessarily bad things. They're just lessons. And you have to understand that mindset. So many people are just whiny, crybaby little fucking babies that the bad shit, they don't ever look at bad shit as a lesson. They look at bad shit as bad shit. Successful people look at adversity, quote unquote, bad shit as an opportunity to learn. And you know what you learn? You learn not to do whatever caused that shit again. It's that simple. So, dude, you've got to get out of your own way on some of these things. I would say 90% of success is getting out of your own fucking way. You know, and there's really not much more to it. You know, you could sit here and say all you want, but most people stand in their own way. They make excuses. It's not just excuses like, oh, I don't feel like doing that. It's these internal excuses like, you know, oh, well, you know, that would be great, but my mom comes from a long line of hairdressers, and because of that, you know, I could never be an astronaut. What the fuck does that even mean?
Seriously.
But that's what people tell themselves. That's what they tell. My dad and his grandpa were all carpenters. But you know what? I want to be a CEO one day, but I can't because they were all carpenters. What the fuck are you talking about? That's how stupid you sound when you're making these internal excuses. You could do whatever you want. You just got to learn how to practically execute on it on a daily basis to the point where you're moving forward. And if you want to learn more about practicality and more about how to use tools, go back and listen to the Kill It Every Day episode. It's a very, very effective episode on practicality.
Yeah.
So guys, look, that's it for today. Appreciate you guys listening. Like I said, please bring me one person. That's all I want. You know, I'm not going to charge you $1. I'm not going to charge you $100. Bring me a motherfucker to listen to this podcast. And I'll see you next time.
Shut up. Okay. What's up? Shut up.